Hello, everyone. Fred here. The title says it all. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be ranking all 7 seasons of the CW's superhero TV series Legends of Tomorrow, going from worst to best. First things first, though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. To date, I've released 3 books: The Women in White, The Lethal List, and most recently, Textbook Murder. They're all on sale now. There are purchase links in my video description below, and I ask you to check them all out. With that in mind, and without further ado, I'm going to just dive right in. Number 7. Season 6. The first half of this season was pretty good and a definite improvement over the disappointment of seasons 4 and 5, with a strong through line and a good build up to the big bad. The back half, however, totally ruined it by returning to the same issues that plagued seasons 4 and 5, delivering a pitiful series of one-off stories and only circling back to the main conflict in the last 3 episodes. Number 6. Season 4. This season had its strong moments, most of them revolving around Nate's relationship with his dad and his chemistry with Zari. But put simply, this season's biggest problem was that it was the season when Legends of Tomorrow stopped being a superhero show. There was way less focus on superheroics and suiting up, and way more focus on transforming the show into a forgettable, empty, juvenile comedy. Number 5. Season 5. This season was an improvement, though minor, over Season 4 because of the boost it got from how Crisis on Infinite Earths was essentially its lead-in event, because many of its one-off episodes were stronger than the ones in Season 4, and because the finale had the first actual superhero moment that this so-called superhero show had displayed since possibly Season 3. Number 4. Season 7. This season was a far cry from this show's best, but was still a major course correction and a slight improvement for the series. The standard Legends formula was shaken up in that the Legends actually spent most of the season in one time period versus many. The use of robot clones made for some pretty cool moments and shocking twists. It was nice to see Gideon join the Legends as a human being. The 100th episode was a true treat and a sweet trip down memory lane, particularly regarding better, earlier seasons of this show. And it was nice to see the return of Matt Lesher's Eobard Thawne for the first time since Season 2, though I wasn't the biggest fan of how this season used him. We also finally got to see Booster Gold at the very end. It's just a shame, though, that it was too little too late to save this show, either for Season 8 or from the mediocrity that had come to define the show by this point. Number 3. Season 1. This season had a very solid start, though I do disapprove of how the first halves of The Flash Season 2 and Arrow Season 4 were shafted in order to set this season up. This season was the strongest and most unique in terms of action, tone, and cinematography. The connections to the Arrowverse's past, present, and even possible future timeline were mostly done well. However, the characters and the writing were this season's biggest problem. The use of rejects and B-listers from Arrow and The Flash as the main cast members for Legends of Tomorrow was not a smart decision. Even though most of those characters did get good characterization in Legends of Tomorrow Season 1. Vandal Savage was also written as a pretty underwhelming villain. On paper, a time-traveling story about fighting an Egyptian immortal through history sounds compelling, but in execution, Vandal Savage's writing and his insufferable Danish accent ruined it all beyond repair. I feel like if he had been written as thoughtfully and with as much depth as, let's say, the Vandal Savage of Young Justice, Season 1 would have landed higher on this list. Season 1 probably also would have landed higher had the writing and pacing been tighter regarding the central conflict, period. Number 2. Season 3. This season's biggest assets were its very strong front half, the fact that this show made better use of Wally West than The Flash ever did, the great addition of John Constantine, the use of the Time Burrow, and the deep emotional hits that came from killing off Martin Stein and Rip Hunter at various points of the season. Still, this season was kept from achieving its full potential by its much weaker back half's slow drift into a sort of ridiculousness that foreshadowed what the show would unfortunately become, beginning with the very next season. The running gag with Bebo and Bebo's centrality in the finale were prime examples of that kind of ridiculousness that just did not need to be there. Also, Malice as a villain didn't work nearly as well as Season 2's Legion of Doom did. Malice wasn't written as well or given as much personal conflict with the Legends as the Legion of Doom was. Now, Malice was built up in the first half of Season 3 with a sense of dread and omnipotence that could have led to something special, but the back half of this season squandered all of it. And when Malice actually did appear in his final terrible CGI form, it was nothing but a letdown. Number 1. Season 2. Easiest choice. The characters and writing were much improved from Season 1. The central story had way better pacing. The show did drift a little more into comedy than I would have liked, but it never drifted into ridiculousness. Characters and stakes weren't purposefully sacrificed for cheap laughs like what happened in later seasons. The tie-ins to other Arrowverse shows were all cleverly conceived, did not contradict facts already established in those shows, and served a purpose besides just being there, which is another area where later seasons missed the mark. The members of the Legion of Doom were near perfect villains because of their personal conflicts with the various Legends and the Justice Society of America, as well as their grounded reasons for forming the Legion of Doom in the first place. Damien Darhk, for example, was used better here and in Season 3 than he ever was used in Arrow. And his grounded rivalry with Sarah Lance was a big part of why. There was Reverse Flash's motivation of simply just wanting to survive, as well as Amaya Jiwei's motivation of hating him for murdering her lover Hourman and catalyzing the murder of Dr. Midnight, Malcolm Merlyn and his simple desire to have his family back, brainwashed evil Rip Hunter and his sad war with the Legends he personally inducted into heroism in Season 1. It all just played out so much better than the basic good versus evil tales that dominated virtually every other season. The only thing I really disliked this season was the deconstruction of Rip Hunter in order to install Sarah Lance as captain. I didn't think Sarah was as strong a character or had enough stage presence to justify her being the main lead. I really believe that Ray Palmer should have been written better this season like he was in Season 3 of Arrow or Season 1 of Legends, and built up to take over being captain from Rip instead of Sarah. I honestly believe that this show was on its way downhill when Sarah did take over. I believed that when I saw it for the first time in Season 2, and I'm sorry to report that I was right because no subsequent season came close to matching Season 2. Alright, so there you have it, all 7 seasons of Legends of Tomorrow ranked from worst to best. At any rate, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Sound off in the comments below. Meanwhile, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.